We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspired Change with Gunter. If your organisation cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self-development and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspired Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number 1 in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. Welcome everybody to another episode. In fact, another season, not just an episode. We're talking about moving into season 8, and this will be the first episode of that season. As you can see by the way that I'm dressed, we're in summer down under, and it's been pretty hot, but the last few days we had a bit of a change in weather. So before we start, I want to frame what season 8's going to be about, what it's for, and why am I doing it this way. If you reflect back, season 7 was about seeing the system, the micro and the macro, and the relationship between the two. The inner life of men and the public world that shapes it and feeds off it. We can't separate those things out. I named the machinery, the bargains, the pressures, and the way men are trained to perform strength even when they are falling apart inside. Now, what's season 8 going to be about? Well, season 8 is about how you build an evolving self. Now, from where I sit, we're never finished with that. There's some suggestions in metaphysics and in some of the neurosciences that even when we die, there's a process that continues. We don't know for how long. It's possibly only through a few minutes, but it's there. There seems to be some suggestions that the mind, releases our memories of our lives. So the purpose of this season is to help men move from scripted masculinity to authored masculinity without moralizing, without shaming, and without turning it into a self-help theatre. Although I think it'd be useful if we exercise some of the things that I'm going to suggest. The mission in itself is practical. I want to give you a weekly training exercise rhythm that builds an inner life capable of truth, repair, intimacy, and steady leadership. Not the performance of all those things, but the real thing. Because here's the conclusion I keep coming back to. Certainly after years of clinical work and years of watching culture, the fact is that most men don't fail because they lack information. They fail because under pressure, they default to an internal notebook or rule book they've never chosen. they run an old program. And if you don't know what that program is, you keep repeating it and calling it just how I am. We believe it to be personality, we believe it to be traits, all those sorts of things. So in every episode this year, I'm going to look at doing a couple of things. Firstly, I'll name a mechanism in simple language, because a lot of this can be explained in very simple languages. Second, I'll describe to you what it looks like in real life. Third, I'll give you at least one tool to practice that week. And for those of you who want to go further, right, and there's going to be hopefully quite a few of you, each week there'll be a short guided practice track on Patreon. And that is where the work is, the training, the exercise, the prompts, the drills that turn insight into behavior. And you can find that at patreon.com/inspirechange. Now, with that lead in, I want to introduce you to core ideas for this particular season and for the first few episodes. There's going to be more. And the reason why I'll start off with these two key concepts is one, firstly, because I've developed them through my research and through serious reflection and review of all my clinical work. And that's really important, I think. One of the things that's been discredited is what I call the single case study. We keep going for these big studies. That's good. We need empirical, quantitative studies, but we also need to review qualitative stuff. So, for want of a better title, I've called Season 8 The Evolving Self, because my view is that we can build, we evolve, we keep growing, we keep healing. So when I say evolving self, I mean the part of you that you can update, in a sense, rescript. The part of you that can notice what's happening inside of you, learn from it, repair it, and choose differently next time. The opposite of that is not a bad man. It's a man running a script. A man who reacts the way he was trained to react, especially if he feels exposed. And that brings me to the two concepts. So don't freak out. I'm going to sound a bit academic at this point, very theoretical, but it's all good because I'm going to explain this in very, accessible language. So the first thing that I came to is the idea that unconsciously we have a defense mechanism that I've titled the patriarchal introject. And it's part of our socialization. So we've absorbed, in a sense, a rule book, right? So let me work through this in a step-by-step process. The second one is the masculine introject. So what's an introject, you're going to ask? Well, it's basically an internal voice you've absorbed from the world without conscious awareness, reflection, review, contemplation. It's not just an opinion, and this is really important. It's a set of rules that lives inside of you, especially in your unconscious. It judges you, it pushes you, it punishes you. It tells you what a real person is supposed to be. In our case, what a real man is supposed to be. So when I say patriarchal introject, I'm talking about the internal rule book of a hierarchy-based culture that is acquisitional, competitive, territorial, and devalues emotional expression. if you think about it, it's that voice that says things like, don't be weak, don't need too much, don't lose face, stay on top of things, be in control, and if you slip, you'll be shamed. It's not necessarily always a voice in words, and this is the important aspect. Generally, it can be a feeling in the body first. So a tightening of muscles, like the jaw, a sense of urgency, a sense of heat, the sense of, I need to fix this now. It's an internal authority that treats life like a status contest. Now, that's the patriarchal introject. Again, let me stress, it's not men are bad. It's a system that trains us as humans to equate worth with rank, competence, and control. So why did I develop that concept? Because when people talk about patriarchy, they usually talk about institutions, politics, wages, laws, and history. And those things undoubtedly matter. Right? But in therapy and in everyday life, we meet patriarchy inside the person. We meet it as a reflex, as a nervous system response. We meet it as shame, and we meet it as a defensiveness. Furthermore, we meet it as the inability to say, I don't know, or I'm struggling. And to do so without feeling like we've just lost our dignity. So I needed a way to name that inner mechanism, not to shame it, but to make it visible. Because you fundamentally can't change what you can't see. Now, what about the masculine introject? And that's the gendered version of the patriarchal thing. The patriarchal introject is the general hierarchy voice that can live in anyone, men, women, anyone raised in our culture. The masculine introject is what the voice becomes when it is specifically trained into boys and men. It's the version that says, a real man handles it alone. A real man stays stoic, unbothered. A real man performs with competence. A real man doesn't need comfort. A real man doesn't expose himself emotionally. He stays stoic. And this is where masculinity gets confused with patriarchy. Because masculinity, in my view, is not automatically harmful. Masculinity can include courage, protection, steadiness, provision, integrity, and leadership. Front and center, masculinity can be beautiful, can be embracing. But when masculinity is colonized by patriarchy, it gets narrowed into this performance aspect of living. And the masculine introject now becomes the inner policeman that enforces that performance. So why did I come up with this second concept? Because men don't just have generic hierarchy rules. Men have gendered rules. They get trained into a very specific bargain. And the bargain fundamentally goes like this. If you suppress vulnerability, you'll get status. If you keep performing competently, you'll be respected. If you stay in control, you'll be safe. And the cost is always shame. A loss of intimacy, less emotional range, less genuine friendship, more loneliness, more pressure, more shame. So the reason these two concepts matter is that they let us talk about masculinity with precision. With that precision, we get stuck in culture war language, like we've seen over the last few decades. But with precision, we can say, here is the inner rule book that drives this behavior. And that's how we as men can change. Not by being told to be different, but by understanding what is running us in the moment and learning how to interrupt it. So let me give you a simple example. A guy comes home from work. He's carrying stress. You can see it. He's had to perform all day competently. He walks in the door and his partner says, "You're not here. You're miles away." In his body, he tightens. He hears criticism. The patriarchal interject wakes up. Don't lose face. The masculine interject joins in. Don't be weak. Don't be wrong. Don't get exposed. So he does one of three things. He defends. What do you mean? I'm not here. I'm right here. Or he fixes. Well, tell me what you want me to do. Or he withdraws. I can't deal with this right now. And later he tells himself, she's too demanding. Or no one appreciates me. Or I can't do anything right. But what actually happens is simpler. At that moment, he experienced vulnerability as danger. That's the whole thing. Now, what does the evolving self do instead? Well, the evolving self can notice that tightening in the body and recognize it as the old rule book switching on. Then it's all about a different move. He pauses, he breathes, he chooses relationship over performance or control. And he says something like to himself, I'm tense. I'm not going to try and disappear. And to his wife, give me a minute or two to come in and land, and then I want to hear what you mean. Now, that sentence isn't perfect, but it is adult. It's not a defense. It's not a counterattack. It's not a withdrawal. It's contact. It's responsibility. Right? It's steadiness. Being grounded. That is masculinity freed from the patriarchal script. So this season, I'm going to encourage you to exercise that capacity week by week. We're going to keep naming the patriarchal interject and the masculine interject in everyday moments. They are defensive processes, but they're not labels, they're maps. And then we're going to practice the tools that let you interrupt them and repair yourself, to evolve, to heal, to move. And the reason for that is that insight without practice is just entertainment. So if you want to do the practice, go to patreon.com, Inspired Change. Each week there's a short guided track, reflection prompt, a brief nervous system downshift, and one relational action to take into the week. That's the place for the work. So let me close with one clear assignment for this week. Notice one moment when you feel the urge to defend, fix, or withdraw. That's the old rule book. Pause, breathe out slowly, and then choose one honest sentence that keeps you in a relationship. You don't need to become a new man in a week. You just need one clean repetition. Also keep in mind there is no perfection, that even after, 40 years of practice, one can still slip up, as I have done recently. Anyway, I'm Gunter Swoboda. I'm your host. I'm a psychologist, therapist, author, researcher, and this is Inspire Change. Welcome to Season 8. On this show, we talk a lot about living with purpose. slowing down, paying attention, and being intentional about the choices we make every day. Because when we simplify the noise around us, we can better hear what really matters. Empathy, connection, and showing up as the best version of ourselves. That's why I'm genuinely pleased to welcome our newest sponsor, Distill Union. Their philosophy aligns beautifully with what we do here. Distill Union creates slick, thoughtfully designed essentials, wallets, key organizers, phone cases, all built with a less is more approach. Their Wally wallets, Ferris key organizers, these are everyday tools that make life easier, cleaner, and calmer. In that simplicity, there's space for clarity. There's space for change. As a thank you to our Inspire Change community, they're offering 20% off any product with the promo code Inspire Change. Have a look, try them out, and see how simplifying your day can open the door to something deeper. Visit distillunion.com and enjoy 20% off any product with the promo code Inspire Change. That's distillunion.com with promo code Inspire Change to check out.
Hello to all our listeners. We thank you for tuning in and promoting positive social change. This makes you a part of Gunter's efforts in transforming not only men's lives, but lives in general, and we are grateful that you have joined us. This week, we're taking a look at the global listeners list. We would like to share our gratitude with our listeners in Japan, Mahabashi, Osaka, and Yokohama. You brought your country up to number 1 on our global listeners list. Congratulations! Last but not least, during the holidays, Inspire Change reached over 160,000 digital downloads. We cannot thank you all enough for getting us closer to our 200,000 a week goal. We thank you so much for your continued support, and we appreciate your efforts to support positive social change. I, Devonna Prinzi, the co-executive producer, and our showrunner, Miranda Spigner-Sapone, sincerely thank you and ask that you please take the time to like, follow, subscribe, and share, as your efforts make a difference to everyone here at Inspire Change with Gunter. Please remember, if you want to share your story of social change, feel free to reach out to the show directly. Please see the show notes for our contact information. As always, thank you to each and every one of our listeners, and most importantly, please keep inspiring positive social change.
Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.guntersvoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com.